Yo, 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 yo. Hello, 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 everybody. I am finishing up. I was in the middle of an etch release, and I didn't want to keep you guys waiting, but I also have to finish the release. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then we're going to get into our main topic. But go ahead and say hi in the chat. I'll share my screen just so you guys can see what I'm doing and not just feel like you're left out. But also audio check, video check, make sure everything is good to go. This is gonna be a spicy one today. It's gonna be a good one. I got a lot of energy today. I'm hyped about this topic today. Okay, you get me hyped about a topic, we're in trouble. Let me share. Okay, I'm just trying to get this done real quick. So, always pumping out these releases here. Etch screen 2. No, we want, which one do we want? We want this etch article. Okay, this is the one we want. We want to crop. Okay, somewhere in here. All right. Man, this is a good release. It's, small release, like little midweek release, but a lot of stuff that people, it's just very, very helpful stuff. Very helpful stuff. These dynamic data modifiers. Really helpful stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. I think that's good to go. Let's just save that. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and post that after the stream. Actually, we can post that in here. We'll go post this update real quick. 0.42.0.42.0. Image, choose, Pika. Okay, there is our update post. Okay. Fantastic. All right, we're about to, all right, close that. We don't want to double stream it. All right, let's close that. Zip is fine. What are we going to get into today? Okay. Catching WDD live after a long time. Cannot wait to hear the arguments for and against. Okay. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. We're already at 135. That's pretty decent. What's up? We got Nick Arse in the house. Let me position this better down here. I added a black background, I think. Let me see if it's working for everybody. Yeah. I should make these comments a little bit easier to see. For so long, we've had trouble with the transparency on those. All right. Looks like the chat is very lively. I'm going to ask you guys for some input in just a second. So, don't stray far from the keyboard. I'm going to ask you for your best argument. I'm going to ask the jury for its best argument. But yeah, we've got a lot to do. Let me pull up my notes. This is a very complex topic, by the way. Let's go to here. Okay, let's move these screens around. All right. So I made notes. Here's some opening, just prep work, okay? I want you to keep an open mind. This is a topic where it's very easy for people to get all up in their feelings. All up in their feelings. Just relax a little bit. Be patient, okay? Hear out the arguments. Try to understand a fresh perspective as we all work together to move into era 4. It takes a little bit of patience, and don't try to drag the carcass of era 3 with us into era 4. That's what I'm saying, okay? And it's important for me to challenge concepts like this. You can't go to the next era. You can't innovate on workflows. You can't innovate on tools if you aren't willing to ask really difficult questions. And sometimes those questions are like, they go after a staple. They go after something that people have used for a crutch for a very long time. And that's why people often get up in their feelings about this kind of thing specifically. So just hear the arguments, look at the examples, be patient, and you also have to understand that everything that I'm going to say is in the context of era 4. Because as you're going to see, the development environment matters tremendously, okay? Outdated interfaces force you into outdated workflows. So if you're arguing, you say, Kevin, I got to do it, Kevin. Well, if you're using an outdated interface, that is probably true. That is probably true. Okay. But that's your option. Like, you're choosing that option, right? It's not the option that everybody needs to choose. And if you're using a more capable interface, then you can have a more capable workflow. And maybe you don't need the crutches of the past. That's kind of the case that I'm going to make. Now, I know that anytime I talk about this kind of stuff, the main, like, intellectually dishonest counter is that I'm gatekeeping. Okay, so two things about that. Number one, this is not gatekeeping, because I literally have your best interest at heart. Like, the advice that I'm giving you is the advice that leads to true empowerment. It is not the advice that is designed to keep you out of the industry or keep you from working or keep you from doing anything that you want to do. It's not the point, right? And I would encourage you to go to, I had to write a whole article about this because people, intellectually dishonest people, throw this at me all the time, okay? Let's see. It's not gatekeeping. Why professional standards matter in web development. Now, it's not 100% in alignment with the topic we're talking about today, but it is very tangentially related. And a lot of these arguments are the defense against this charge, okay? I got to move my chat out of the way. Oh, Ruben's already here buying me coffees. That's fantastic, Ruben. Thank you. I appreciate it, okay? Okay, so as I was saying with regard to interfaces being a challenge, right? We're not in Kansas anymore. These old unnecessary workflows, they're no longer necessary. That's the case that I'm going to be making. I'm going to be saying multiple times throughout the stream, probably, like, the theme is going to be, take your medicine, and you're going to be better off when you heal when you take your medicine. You get better when you take your medicine. And if you find this stream compelling, I need you to understand this is what I outlined while I was drinking a cup of coffee this morning. This is not like, if I really wanted to prosecute this case, like if you really wanted me to, like, hey, the death penalty is on the table, like, prosecute this case, I could do that. In very detailed fact. This is literally off the cuff. Let's just call this a grand jury hearing. Should we or should we not bring charges, right? That's what you guys get to decide today. Now, what I want you to do, I will say, though, it's a really bad day to be a CSS styling panel, okay? So this is, hopefully you're going to come to this conclusion at the end. But yeah, you guys let me know. Here's the thing. I need your best argument right now. So get on the keyboard, think in your mind, all right, CSS styling panels, all right, what? Pros and cons, advantages, costs, okay? Give me your number one argument. Give me your number one, Kevin, this is the reason. I know you probably got a lot of them. I understand you got a lot of arguments, okay? I need you to get, what is your best argument? Your best argument for CSS styling panels. Who are they for? Why do they need to exist? Why should we keep them around? Just give me your best argument. Hit the keyboards, okay? I want to roll in. Ruben is cheap. He super chats them dollars. Yeah. You can't buy much on Ruben, especially in this economy, okay? Like, can't buy much with Ruben money. We got John is here. Welcome. Let's see. Questions are welcome, but you have to use #Q, okay? Okay, so Nick says align items, justify content, helps so much to have the directional arrows UI, okay? Just bought a new mouse and I need it. Well, you're gonna need a few. The amount of clicks that you guys do, astronomical. I'm surprised any mice still exist. People who don't know CSS. Let's see. Gatekeeping and gaslighting are two terms often thrown around by those who don't like what you're doing. Yes, this is 100% true. I agree. Okay. All right. Styling panel should be improved to support standards, not ditched because you can't do it. That's interesting. Okay. Can't do it. I have no arguments. All right. Styling panel will educate beginners how this translates into CSS code in Etch via bidirectional sync. Okay. And by the way, I am going to, because I understand that you guys are not on the microphone. You're not on video. This is not a simulcast. This is not a guest show. You can't actually argue back against me. Like, I'm going to do my best to steelman the arguments. So that means I'm going to give you the best argument. Like, if I was arguing back, right? What would my arguments be if I was arguing back? I'm not gonna throw you guys under the bus by, like, pretending there's like no pros, there's no advantages or anything like that. What we will cover the legitimate advantages. Of course, I think you will see the actual benefits to these advantages have kind of been eroded as of late. And it may not be advantages going into the future at all. And I think the main point that I'll end up making is that while there are some objective advantages, the cons dramatically outweigh them, and they're just not necessary anymore. And so you don't even need to put up with it. So let's get into it. I think we're good. Your goal is always the fastest workflow. For small things and fast pages, people without your knowledge can archive results fast without a panel. Okay. All right, good. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start prosecuting the case. I don't have a tie to mess with, but I would if I did. Okay. So here are the advantages. This is what and I've talked to multiple people. This is what most people say. I think we can get off that blog post now. Close that out. Okay. And I'll be in Bricks a little bit. I'll be in Etch. This is not an attack on Bricks. Bricks is, every styling panel that I've ever seen looks like Bricks' styling panel. Okay. They're all the same. They're either a Webflow clone or they're an Elementor clone, essentially, right? Those are the two clones that you see over and over and over again. So don't pay attention to the specific name of this counter example here. They're all the workflows are essentially the same. But here are the advantages. And keep in mind, I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been teaching people for a very long time. I know how beginners think. I know how beginners work. I know what beginners want and what they think they need. Okay. I'm not just pulling this shit out of left field. So they do make less capable users feel more confident. Now, whether that is legitimate confidence or fake confidence, that's up for debate still. But there is no denying the fact that they make beginner users or even less capable users, however you want to quantify them, feel more comfortable and feel more confident and more capable. I'm told a lot that it speeds up the workflow, that styling panels is faster than writing CSS. I think that this is very true in old interfaces. I think this is 1,000% true in old interface, and I'm going to show you exactly why. I don't think this is true in general. I don't think that if you have comparative workflows that it's true. I think it's actually false. In most ways, styling panels are actually slower, among many other things, many other problems with them, as we'll discuss, okay? But again, remember these are like the best arguments. Like, Kevin, it's just fast. It's faster, Kevin. It's faster to work in the styling panels. Okay, I hear that all the time. That's like one of the top arguments. And I'm saying I don't think it is. I don't think it actually is. And in the modern era, in a capable interface, even if you don't know what you're doing, it might be faster to write CSS. Okay, you got to stick with me. You got to stick with me. I told you, don't get all up in your feelings too early. Okay, get up in your feelings later. Don't do it too early now. Less typing, they say. Less typing. That's true. That's true. It is less typing. It's a lot more clicking, though. Very, very, very click heavy. And I will tell you that click heavy interfaces start to feel very tedious. Okay? If you haven't felt this way working in these interfaces, I don't know what to tell you. They feel extremely tedious, especially the more capable you get, the click cost feels relatively more expensive, okay? So the more capable you are as a user, the click, 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 panel, 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 click, 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 panel, 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 accordion, 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 find an input, that shit feels so heavy. So it might feel lighter initially to less capable users, but the better you get, the worse the panels get, okay? So again, these supposed advantages are only advantages in very slim scenarios. Now let's get to the cons and the costs, and then we're gonna throw some examples maybe as we go. I don't know. I organized this shit while I drank a cup of coffee. And like I said, I could bring way more structure to this. You really want me to prosecute this case, then I could do that. But we get, this is the grand jury. We're gonna just figure out where our feelings are at. And if you want me to come back and really hang this person, okay, I can do that. But this is just casual. We're just keeping it casual today. So what is one of the cons of the styling panel in most interfaces, right? Well, it hides the CSS editor, okay? Which then becomes a circular argument because people say, writing CSS is too slow, Kevin, and it's too slow. Well, yeah, if you hide the editor in panel number 17 and I gotta click 7 times to get to it every single time, it's for sure slower. That doesn't mean it has to be slower. It doesn't mean the act of writing the CSS is slower than using a panel. You just hid the place where I have to write the CSS, and then you said it's slower. Okay, well, what if we don't hide it? Okay, we're gonna take a look at that in just a second. What if it's always there? Is it really still slower? We'll find out. It's many, 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 many more clicks, which I already said makes the workflow feel very tedious. Many, many, many clicks. Can we just agree on that? Can anybody acknowledge that the interfaces with the styling panels and the accordions and all that stuff going on, doesn't it feel very click heavy to you? Does it not feel very click heavy? Now we can count the clicks, okay? We don't have to go on feelings. We could count the clicks. That would be fairly objective. We could count the clicks. We might do a little bit of that. But like, come on, like in the chat, can we acknowledge it feels very click heavy? These interfaces. Okay. So BK, you need to relax, BK. You need to relax because you can't prosecute a case, BK, if you don't give any context. If you don't actually give any argument. These are the arguments, BK. You listening to the arguments? We'll get to the examples. Look, you're not going to like the examples. So I don't know why you're rushing to get to them because presumably you're a style panel guy, right? You're not going to like the examples. So I don't know why you want to rush to get to them, right? That's just going to get you to the electric chair faster, my friend, okay? All right, let's say. I wouldn't say remove style panels. Okay. So again, hold your conclusions until the end. You can't come to a conclusion if you haven't heard all of the arguments, you haven't seen any of the examples. This idea of, well, I mean, we can't, Kevin, that's crazy talk. You've heard 0.05% of the arguments, and you've seen 0 examples, and you're already coming to the conclusion of what we should and shouldn't do. I wouldn't do that. If I were you. I would just keep an open mind. I would just let the discussion happen, okay? All right. Bad authoring experience. So very often when I'm using style panels and when I watch other people use style panels, I can't even see because interfaces, like especially a sidebar panel type situation, there's not a lot of real estate there. And depending on how the inputs are laid out, very often it is so common. You can go back to any of my hundreds of videos, right, in these other interfaces where I'm filling out inputs, you can't see the full value. And this is especially true when you're writing calc strings, but even when you're using variables that are a little bit longer, like primary ultra light or so just take primary ultra light, but it's cut off by the size of the input. So when I'm at a glance trying to look and see what's going on with this element, right? What's going on with the styling? I see primary primary what? Primary and I'm like, fuck me. And I got to click in there and then I got to scroll over and I got to look. Why? Because the interface is bad. It's a bad authoring experience. You can't even see the values that you're putting into the interface. Who is going to stand up and be like, that's the way that should be that way, Kevin? You shouldn't be able to see your values. Well, you need a calc string. Well, you shouldn't need to know what you're calculating. Just have faith that you wrote the calc right and you put the right number of parentheses, right? You don't need to see the whole thing. Oh, you need the context for what am I adding to? You need to know the value you're adding or subtracting by. Who needs to know that? Who needs to know that, right? It's a bad authoring experience. You can't even see the value half the time. I'm going to show you this. Okay, you're going to see this. There's a lack of context. You're trying to do a lot of things to an element. And by the way, this compounds as an element or a group of elements, gets more complex. You need to understand what you already did and what still needs to be done, but you can't understand that context at a glimpse because everything is all over the place. It's in accordion number 3 and accordion number 9 and panel number 7. And you can't see it. You can't see it. It's hard to interpret. There's a lot more mental processing that has to happen. Remembering, what did I already do? Where did I do that thing? It's very mentally intensive, along with all the clicking and the inception of the panels and the accordions and everything else that's going on. You have segregated styling. So you end up, because styling panels, as you're going to see and I'm going to get to in just a minute, can't do everything. They can't do a lot of advanced things. You end up back in the CSS box. You end up where you should have started because the thing you decided to use isn't capable of doing the things you needed to do. So you end up back in the CSS panel. And now if you're using an interface that doesn't have bidirectional sync, you have styles in CSS and you have styles in panels and you have styles at breakpoints and you have styles fucking everywhere. And it becomes an absolute nightmare. Okay? It's confusing for experienced users, as you're gonna see in just a second. I mean, if I wanna add a background gradient to something, I would go to the background panel. You go to the background, let's just show you, okay? I'm adding something, let's just pop in a div. Let's just pop in a div here, okay? We'll pop in a div. There we go, okay? And we're gonna say like my awesome card, okay? It's my awesome card right here. And I want to, well, first let's add some padding, okay? And maybe let's do this simultaneously, side by side in Etch. So I'm just gonna add a div in Etch here, okay? And this is gonna be my awesome card. And I'll put the class on here, my awesome card. I mean, it's the same, so far, we're like one-to-one. It's like, okay, we clicked a button, we got a div, we named it, we gave it a class, whatever, okay? So now I wanna add padding. Let me mark in, by the way, my list of cons and costs is quite long. So let me mark where I'm at so we don't lose our spot, okay? Confusing for experienced users. Okay, I need to put a divider right here. Okay, and then I can easily come back to where we left off with our prosecution, okay? All right, here we go. So my awesome card. Now, you're gonna tell me, Kevin, without the styling panels, a beginner, they would not be able to add padding inside that box. That's what you're telling me. That's what you're telling. If all I gave them was a CSS editor, they wouldn't be able to add padding inside that box. Let's just start here. Just start with something basic. Start with something simple. They wouldn't be able to do it. Would they be able to do it? Would they not be able to do it? Is it just easier this way? Which way is easier? Okay. I don't know what the actual argument is. None of them make a lot of sense, right? And these old interfaces, obvious. I mean, there's nowhere for me to write the CSS. So of course, I've got to use the panel. And then I learn the panel, and then I'm familiar with the panel, and then you ask me to write CSS, and I'm like, that's tough, right? But is it really? Like, let's really break it down. So I'm gonna go to style, that's 1 click. I'm gonna go to layout, that's 2 clicks. I'm gonna go to padding, that's 3 clicks. I'm gonna put in a little variable here. I'm gonna go click, that's 5 clicks now. And we've got some padding inside of our awesome card, which I don't think we're gonna be able to see unless we add something in it, okay? So there's a heading. So I have my padding inside of my awesome card. Now, that was 5 clicks. That cost 5 clicks. The cost of that was 5 clicks. Now, that's just to fucking add some padding on a card. That's not all the other shit I need to do, which by the way, we'll do, because you need to see it. I mean, you need to, as painful as it is, you need to see it. Now, I have an interface here where the CSS box is exposed at all times. And it requires no clicks. So I want to add padding to the box. Now, you're telling me That this is not possible for a beginner. Or a beginner, Kevin, they don't know the property names. You mean they don't know that padding is called padding? Is that the argument? Okay. Like they can't just do that. No clicks, no cost. Fine. Okay. That's not difficult. Is that really hard? Okay. We need a whole panel for that. We need a panel for that. By the way, this is a lot more efficient than the padding. Well, I mean, why don't we just look at it? Why don't we just look at it? We can go here. Why don't we just look? Okay. Our builder, what did our builder help us with here? Padding top space M, padding right space M, padding bottom space M, padding left space M. No logical properties and just dramatic inefficiency. Dramatic inefficiency versus what I was able to do with one line. And, oh, Kevin, you had to type that. Well, I guess I did. It didn't cost me 5 clicks though, okay? And I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to hunt anything down, right? Because there are more obscure properties, like, yeah, padding is obvious, okay? And we're gonna get, don't worry, for those of you who are dying, you're probably dying for like, oh, Kevin's padding, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, because you're letting the emotions get the best of you, which I understand. But the case for this gets, the case for styling panels gets worse and worse the more advanced we get. You understand that, right? It doesn't get better, it gets worse, okay? It starts out bad and it only goes downhill from there. It doesn't ever get better. It's only better in an interface that doesn't actually give you what you need, okay? So now, let's add a heading in here, okay? We'll just keep things consistent, right? Put a heading in here. What's the next thing that I want to do? I want to add a background, but I want this background to be a linear gradient. This is what I was getting at a minute ago when it can confuse more experienced users. By the way, we'll check on the chat. Every letter typed is a click. It's actually not, but that's okay. It's all right. I gotta give you some crumb. If that's a little crumb I have to give you, that's fine. Let's see. Okay. All right. So it's as emotional as I expected it to be. That's fantastic. Okay. So let's add a background, but my background is going to be a linear gradient. It's going to be a linear gradient to bottom, from top to bottom. That's the direction, from top to bottom. And it's going to go from whatever this website's primary color is to the primary light color. Okay, so from primary to primary light. Now, I'm gonna go into bricks and I'm gonna do this first in bricks. Now, what did I just say? I want to add a background that is a linear gradient. So I am going to go to background and I don't see anything here related to linear gradient. So not only did that cost me a click, but I had to waste a click, okay? Trying to, it is a background, okay, property. It's not here though. It's not here because it got put in a different place and it got combined with this concept of an overlay. And now I'm actually introduced with actual, more complexity because now it's saying, well, where do you want to apply this thing? I mean, I've got 3 options all of a sudden. Like what? Hold on, I could do this, I could do this, I could do that. And by the way, if you don't know anything about overlays, they too can appear as background sometimes, depending on how it's applied. So I don't even, this is just more thought processing. Now it says CSS selector. Aren't I selecting one? Here's another option for one. I don't know what the fuck to do here. Now I gotta guess. I'm just gonna leave it blank. I'm gonna hope it works. I'm gonna leave it blank. Then I can go type linear, radial, conic. Okay, linear. Angle in. Well, I wanted to say to bottom because that's what I would do if I write CSS. But if I write to bottom here, it doesn't work. This only accepts an angle value. It doesn't accept keywords, which keywords are much faster, and more logical to type in these scenarios. I've got to put 180, okay? Not a huge deal, but still, it's just not what I would write, and it's not how I would choose to do it. I'm gonna add 2 colors. I gotta click. These are, I don't know, what are we at now? We have 4 clicks now. I'm gonna come in here. That's another click, because see, this one closes when this one opened. Now I gotta click back. Now I'm gonna go color. Okay, I don't want any of those. I gotta go, can I put primary in this input? I don't think so. I have to go to raw. That's another click. I got to go to this one. Ah, there it is. Okay, now I got to click in this one. I got to click in this one. Now I got to click in this one. Now I got to come down here. I got to paste. I got to go primary light. Okay. All right. Got my linear gradient. Got my linear gradient. Now over here, of course, I could go background linear. By the way, it just like it does have autocomplete, right? If you're not sure, but I'm going to give you a completely different pathway because I know what you're already thinking, okay? To bottom, if I did red and blue, look what that would be. And then I can just easily replace these, right? Primary, I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to click on anything. I'm already working here. This is where I did my padding, by the way, right? Put these things in a chain of events and you're gonna start to see how insanely intensive it is. Where like, look, what if I want to go adjust my padding again? Gotta go out, gotta go back in. Got to go down here. Oh shit, want to tweak the gradient. Okay, back out. Oh, back over here, back into here, back into here, back into here. If you don't think this shit adds up over the course of this is why I always came to the, I would just rather write the CSS and we just come to the conclusion that this is way easier. Now, your argument is, but Kevin, I don't know CSS. So how the fuck am I gonna write it if I don't know it, right? I understand. I told you, I understand beginners, but I also said we live in a modern era. We're not in Kansas anymore, people, okay? So tell me what is easier. Going and deciphering how a panel was laid out, which by the way, you can master that panel all you want. The minute that interface changes, the minute you go to a different builder, different interface, whatever, all of that work you did, all that learning curve you pushed through, fucking gone, evaporated. You have no actual skills. You got familiar with a panel that exists at a point in time. You didn't actually gain any skills. Maybe a little bit of understanding, but you're still afraid to write it, and you're still not really empowered to do the work, okay? You're just clicking in the panels. Now, here's the thing. We open this up, right? This is Dia. This is not etched. Now, this will be etched in, I don't know. I can't give you a time frame. I mean, probably sooner than you would expect, but here's the thing. Is it like, I just want a linear gradient, okay? Write me a linear gradient function that goes to bottom from primary to primary light, okay? If I really don't know, because the argument is they don't know the property names or they don't know the syntaxes, Kevin. If they don't know the syntax, they can't write it. That's why they need the panel to write it for them. But look, you can literally just now, see, we don't live in fucking Kansas anymore, right? So if I don't know what a linear gradient function looks like or how it works, I can just have something literally spit it out. And I still have all the flexibility and I still have all the advantages of working without all the clicks and without all the panels and without all the inception and without all the costs. We haven't even continued down the cost list. Okay? But look, this is a prime example. Imagine if you could just do that in this input right here. You didn't even have to leave here. You just went / like, write me a linear, like it would just do it. Imagine that scenario. Why do you need the panel? What is the panel now for, right? Because again, I agree. You haven't memorized the syntax. That's a problem. When I write JavaScript and I haven't memorized the syntax for the JavaScript, I can't write it. Okay, but now I have a tool that goes, oh, you need that syntax, here it is. And then I just swap some values around. But I don't, like, the whole panel thing, which used to solve that problem, is no longer necessary for that, okay? And we have to think about all these things in full context of how it all adds up at the end of the day. We haven't even gotten halfway down my list, okay? There's no nesting ability. You cannot target children from the parent or vice versa, target the parent from the child in a panel. I don't know of any panel really that can do that, except that just panel. But that's besides the point. So like that's a problem because there are certain things that are related to other things. And you can't relate them with the panels. They have to stay unrelated. They have to stay unlinked, okay? Their CSS has to live separately because that's all the panel can handle. Let's go into another prime example that we can look at here that is combined with general HTML violations of page builders. But you can't style force nested elements properly. And there's two cases that we run into over and over and over and over again. I'm gonna go back over here. We're gonna set that card aside for just a second. Let's add another section. I'm gonna add an image to this, okay? Image. And I'm gonna grab the image and I'm gonna say, where are we? See? Okay. Well, I thought we were gonna be in the content tab. I'm not in the content tab. I gotta click over, okay? That's what I was looking for. HTML tag, figure, okay? Save. Now, I have added an image, which I have properly wrapped in a figure tag. Now, the problem is, I want this element to have a little bit of padding, and I want it to have a concentric radius. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, my awesome figure, okay? My awesome figure. And I'm gonna add some padding. Click, 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 bam. That was a long way to go for a little bit of padding, but it's okay. Space M, click, click, more, okay? More clicks, very click heavy. Click, 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 click. Finally, I can add a value, okay? And now comes the part where we're gonna add the radius. So I'm gonna go to border and I'm gonna put in a concentric radius formula, okay? Which if you're not sure what that is, it's essentially you take your normal radius plus half of the padding value, okay? So I use space M as the padding value. I need my normal radius, which I have tokenized as radius, plus half of my padding, okay? I'm not gonna bother doing the locally scoped tokens and all that we normally do because that's not the point. I'm gonna write a calc function because that's what I have to do to write a concentric radius formula. The only way to get a concentric radius, because this panel does not give me one as an option, is to write a calc function. And so I'm gonna say calc, take my radius. And now you see one of the arguments that I made earlier. I can't see what the hell I'm doing. I don't know where the brackets are. I don't know where the function ends or starts or where I am in it because this panel is too small. These inputs are too small. Calc var radius plus var space M divided by 2. Save. Whew! Oh, that's just the left. Click, click. Okay, now that's oh, wait a minute. What has happened here? Well, why do they both have a radius? Well, there's no way to answer this question without going to the front end and refreshing and inspecting. Something, by the way, let me get my tie here, my prosecutor tie, a little tighter, okay? Listen to this. You know how many times I have to inspect a page because I have to figure out what the hell the interface is doing. Where did you write this code? What did you do, right? Because I didn't write it, it wrote it, I got to inspect it. Now, remember the context of all of this was, Kevin, these style panels make it way easier on beginners. You mean beginners that don't know how to inspect a page? Those beginners, so right now, I tried to do something very simple. Get a little, even if I just wanted border radius, guys, this has nothing to do with concentric radius. You might be like, Kevin, concentric radius, that's too difficult. It happens with 1M. Okay, let's go back to the front end. I didn't ask for this. What is this? Okay, let's inspect. So we inspect. Well, we see that the one element that we added is actually two elements, one element inside of another. And the selector that we added is only added to the parent element. And let's look down here. We see the image radius. Where is the radius? Border radius. Gotta inspect. There's a lot of hunting. Maybe I can get to it from here. Border, left radius. Here we go. The image that's inside a figure is set to inherit the radius from the parent. I didn't ask for that to happen. And now I've got a little bit of a conundrum, don't I? Got a little bit of a conundrum. How do you fix that? How do you do what you wanted to do in the first place in this scenario? Okay, like I'll tell you, you're not gonna like the answer. You're not gonna like the answer, but I will tell you, okay? I'm gonna come in and click, all right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to this box and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna say, images in here, border radius needs to be radius. Well, that wasn't easy. That wasn't beginner friend. That wasn't beginner like that. Who did that help? By the way, I now have unrelated styles floating separately from each other. I had to write CSS because this is the fundamental reality that you must accept. If you're going to live by the CSS style panel sword, you will die by the CSS style panel sword. You always have to retreat to custom CSS for anything that's not simple. Anything that's not simple requires you to come here where you should have started in the first place, okay? And you're not gonna know when that's gonna need to happen. It's just gonna need to happen a lot. And you're now gonna have to bounce back and forth, and now you've got the cost of all these separated styles. Think about this, I did my border radius here, but I have out here, in here, in here, in here, something related to that instruction. 6 clicks away is the related styling. This is the life I have to live in these panels, okay? They cannot and will never do all of the things that you need them to do. You will always be forced to retreat back to the CSS panel. And by the way, before you ever could even retreat back to the CSS panel, you needed the experience and knowledge and foresight and understanding to go to the front end and inspect the page and find out what the problem was in the first place. That is not helping anybody. That is not helping. And now let's compare, okay? I mean, certainly this is gonna be much more difficult than what we just saw, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add an image. And we don't have a figure element, right? So we're gonna do the very difficult thing of wrapping this, okay? I'm gonna save this and refresh real quick. We're gonna grab this, yes, I gotta allow the keyboard shortcuts, okay? I'm gonna wrap in a div, and I'm gonna say, all right, you be a figure element. What did we call it? My awesome figure or something like that, okay? I'm gonna see if I don't even know if I have an image on here. I don't think I even put any images in. Okay, let's go to Unsplash real quick. Let's grab this one, nice little architecture here. Let's squoosh it up, okay? This is what I would have had to do if, I had them on the other site. So 1920, oh, not 12, 920. All right, and let's go WebP while we're here. Let's go WebP while we're here. All right, save that. Fantastic. Select, downloads, WebP, bring it in, use this media, okay? So now I've got a figure with my awesome figure. Now remember, and I'm gonna zoom in for you guys here so that we can see this, okay? We're gonna do the really difficult task of adding padding. We're gonna do that by writing the word padding, okay? One of the key arguments I wanted to make, by the way, the main obstacle to doing this, what you're watching here, is not technical deficiency. The main obstacle to doing what you're watching right now is fear and self-avoidance. And I know this because I have taken many people who have the fear and self-avoidance of this panel, and I have made them insanely proficient at using this panel. And they tell me in their feedback, Kevin, I feel so empowered now, and I'm working so much faster now, and everything makes so much more sense to me now, and they're getting all the benefits. So you see how this works, right? But this is not actually objectively difficult. And these are not code words. They're the literal words. Like, put yourself in a real beginner, like my mom. Does my mom know the difference between margin and padding? Probably not. Probably not. So she can't even use the right inputs until she learns at least that. Well, once you've learned there's margin and there's padding, and padding goes on the inside and margin goes on the outside, you cannot tell me, there is no courtroom where you would make this case, that you can't just write the word, that you don't know the word. Well, Kevin, I don't know the word. You know the word. You said it in your head before you went to find the damn panel for it, okay? So look, it's not hard, all right? So space M. So there's our padding. Now, without going anywhere else, I could just do border radius, and I could just put a calc, and I could just say radius plus, and then I could do the space M, okay? And I could do the divided by 2, okay? And I'm gonna say, but we're just gonna zoom out for just a second. I can see that I'm getting my radius. I'm gonna see there's no radius on that image right there. And even without a single click, I can just solve that problem, okay? And now I have a concentric radius. You wanted a background too? I can do that without any clicks. Background, I'll go primary. Hey, we got a background. We got a concentric radius. What did I have to inspect? How much time did that take? How much? And you're saying, well, Kevin, I don't know the background. What do you mean you don't know the background? You use the word background, so that's what you write. Border radius, that's what you write. Even if you didn't know, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Kevin, I didn't know there was a dash in the word border radius, okay? Okay? Is it one of these? Or perhaps if you had a little AI here, you could be like, hey, what's that border radius syntax? Yeah. Okay, that's it. And then you keep working, right? You're telling me you need the insane complexity and click inception of these style panels, right? To be able to do border radius, right? And then I'll put the calc in, boom. Now again, concentric radius, that's more advanced, but we're doing this with anything. If I just want the radius to be bigger in some form or fashion than the inside radius, like even that you could get away with it. Ain't nobody getting a damn ruler out, okay? A protractor or whatever is gonna be required there. I got a bigger radius than the inner radius, which I couldn't do in the other interface, which I couldn't do with the other style panel, and I did it very quickly and very efficiently. And look what something else I couldn't do in the other panel. I couldn't join the child and parent instructions together. And then if I wanted to come in here and say something like figure padding, and I wanted to say space M, I wanted to like tokenize this, and then come here and replace it. I don't have to go anywhere to do this, and I can see all of what's happening at the same exact time, which dramatically lowers the mental processing. I don't have to, oh, what was happening over there? What was that token called over there? What? Oh, let me go find it again. Click. Ah, shit, it's not working. Let me go to the front end. Oh, let me inspect it now. Like, chaos. Absolute. This is the antidote to chaos right here. That other work, that is chaos. All right, I'm not even done. I'm not even halfway through my list. Let's keep going. Okay, so we've seen these problems where we're gonna run into essentially roadblocks, where you are forced back to where you should have started in the first place, the CSS box. Now, what about natural limitations, okay? Advanced selectors. I wanna apply a hover style to this figure, for example, or maybe to our awesome card that we put up here, okay? Or maybe I want to do some sort of like nth child selector. I want to do something super fancy, super programmatic, whatever, right? Very difficult to do in these style panels right here. Where is my card, okay? Let's try an nth child of 1. I want to set the background to black, okay? So I don't, maybe red, I don't know. We need to still be able to see the text. That's not the point. Let's do a selector. My awesome card, nth child of 1, okay? That is a valid selector in bricks. That is you could do that. You could do that, okay? Now, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna go black, or I'm gonna go red, or fuck. I'm gonna go primary. Oh, I'm gonna go, I don't know, what will work? What, FFF, nothing is working. What's going on, okay? All right, well, as always, we take a trip to the front end, okay? Let's go, where, did I have it still up here? Let's go to it. There it is, okay? Let's find our card. Let's inspect. Got to find out what's going on. Oh, what the, okay, all right. That's odd to see. All right, let's go back over here. Styles, there it is. I do see styles. Oh, wait a minute. Is it that, no, that's not working. What is going on? It's got all this stuff going on. I would think that would work to bring in this, I mean, something like, I don't know. The problem is, one, okay, if you didn't realize, background image overrides background color. And I didn't ask to write background color, by the way. When I would be writing this, like in Etch, I would write actual background, okay? I would write actual background. And that would then serve to override the original background that I wrote. So let's go back into bricks and let's take a look at this, okay? We're down here with the card. Let's bring this section up here so I don't have to be at the bottom of the page. Okay, perfect. So the reason this isn't working is because background color, which is my only option in background. See, I was not given another option, right? I can't, it's background color or nothing. Background color or nothing, right? So what are my options? Like how do I fix it? How do I fix, when it's the nth child, I want to change the background color. How do I fix it? I'll tell you how to fix it. You're not going to like the answer, okay? You have to go back here. And you got to do all of that here. And you have to use the actual background property that you used before, so now it overrides it. There is no panel pathway to doing that. And you're going to run into the same issues a lot of times on hover, there's just endless amounts of examples that we could go through over and over and over. And these are not rare instances. These are not rare limitations. These are commonly known problems that if you watch any of my videos of the last 150, always overcome by writing CSS. And always, I got to the point where I even though they made me dig into panel number 16 for the CSS, I would still do it because it was still more efficient. It was still less problematic. It was still more predictable, okay? Let's do this. Let's do a schedule. Let's do a table, a schedule. And I want to style, because the idea that I would use BIM on every TR, TH, TD of a table is absurd. It's unnecessary. So, the fact that, how would you even build a table? I've built a table in bricks before. It's not fun. And again, this has nothing to do with bricks. This is era 3 interfaces, era 2 interfaces. This is how would you approach the construction of a table? Well, we can put it in the container. So let's use a flex. I'm not going to do the whole thing because we'd be here all fucking day. Let's do a little bit of it. Okay, I would call this a table, and I would have to change. First of all, you have to know what the structure of a table is off the top of your damn head, which I don't write these every single day, but I got to come down here. It's not there. I got to go here. I got to write table. Now it's a table. Now I can start doing THs and TD, and you got to do it box by box by box by box by box by box by box until you want to jump off a bridge. And we don't live in Kansas anymore. Okay, it's just not necessary, these things. Look, I'm gonna go over here. I wanna do a table. I wanna whip up some CSS for. I just wanna get some basic styles for this table going. All right, I don't care to do this. This is not what I'm being paid to do, okay? Write me a semantic table with 3 columns and three rows. Use schedule as the main class on the table. Don't put classes on children. Make it accessible. Don't write any CSS. I only want the semantic HTML, okay? Now you could go, I mean, we could race all day. You go click, click, click your boxes over there, okay? I'm just going to do this with very little sweat and tears, okay? I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna paste, and I suddenly have a table. Wow, okay. And then I'm gonna come in and it's got table schedule on here. So the minute I select it, it's ready for styling. And I can come in and I could do something like TH, and I can see right over here when I'm looking at TRs, TDs, and THs, right? TRs, TDs, THs, what else? That might be all for now, okay? And let's do something like padding of space XS. And let's do something of text align left. And there's a little caption floating around up there. Funny, silly little caption. I'll just write the word caption. How about that? And I'll say text align left. That's super difficult to do. It looks like my caption's missing the padding that I put in these other things, so I'll just include it in that instruction. And suddenly I'm starting to get to the semblance of like an actual styled table in mere seconds with no panels and no inception and not much clicking at all, right? Because I can do things properly. I'm speaking the language of web design. I'm not navigating my way around some convoluted interface. Okay? If you think you can beat me in bricks, I will put up money that you can't beat that right there. You are days behind if we expand this out to an entire project. Okay? So here, and again, what you're telling me, well, Kevin, this CSS is too complicated. There's nobody could do this without a panel. You mean if they want to align text, they can't write text align? You mean that if they want to add padding, they can't add padding? And then you're like, Kevin, they didn't know what to add padding to. They didn't know these things existed. Well, funny you say that, because in order to even fucking get there in this thing, I had to know what those things were, because I can't build it if it doesn't exist. There's no table element is there a table element that I don't know of? Unless they've done one recently? Doesn't seem like it, okay? I could bring in somebody else's table, but I still can't style it because I don't know what have you seen hey, try to style this nav game in all these builders? You're trying, the child on hover and this and that, and you're absolutely lost. Of course you're absolutely lost because you're 17 panels deep trying to style a very complex component with a very inadequate style panel. Of course you're lost. Of course it's a headache. Of course it's a nightmare. Okay? These things are not difficult over here, where I can see the entirety of the table with no clicks, with no nothing. Okay? And I can keep it very clean, and I can keep it very simple. And if I need help, I can ask for help. And the help will be given, because we don't live in Kansas anymore. We live in a new era. So we don't need to drag the carcass of era 3 and 2 into era 4, I don't think. Okay? Let's keep going. By the way, I could do ises, I could do wheres, I could do so many things that I might need to do. Like wheres are very critical for a specificity control. And if I can't do wheres, I don't have any specificity control. Kind of a problem for larger projects. So, this list is absolutely endless. I did a tutorial where I showed building a hero section with grid areas and subgrid. Absolutely impossible in a styling panel. 100% impossible in a styling panel. Where would I have to retreat to? I would have to retreat to CSS box in panel number 7 and write the custom CSS there. Every single time. The panels never keep up. They never do what you need them to do. Pseudo elements. What is the pseudo element workflow? Where is my card? Okay, I think I deleted my card. Let's add a little fun card back. Okay. We're gonna come up here to div and we're gonna put this, what was it? My awesome card. There it is. My awesome card. Let's drop a heading in there. Okay. We don't need it to say anything. Now, we want to add a pseudo element, a before element. It's gonna be a little blur. It's gonna be an accent blur that sits right behind the top right corner. It's like a little cute little accent blur. It's what the designer told us to do. So that's what we're gonna try to do with a pseudo element. So I'm gonna click on this and I'm gonna click on this and I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna click on this button. I think this is how you do it. And then I'm gonna do this and I'm going to create. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm gonna go there. Okay, now I've got this. All right, now, oh, well, I didn't mean to be there. Where do I start? I need to do maybe some dimensions. Let's do width. Let's do 100 pixels. Let's do height, 100 pixels, okay? We need color. We need background color. All right, let's go to background color. We need a variable, okay? We'll do primary, do we have a secondary enabled? Let's see, it doesn't look like we do. Let's do neutral, will that work? Okay, I can't even preview it yet because nothing is showing up. We need to position it. We need to go top 0, right 0. Let's do that, okay? Z index, while we're here, we might as well do the Z index -1. Let's do a border radius. Because we need to be a circle. Let's go border radius, okay? 50 VW, few clicks, there we go. I still don't see my damn pseudo element. What could be the problem? Well, the content field. Okay, content field. Where is, oh, it's right here. It's sitting right here. It's been there the whole time. Okay, so like if I put in words, you would see it, okay? I'm gonna put in what you would normally put in, quotes. That's blank content, and I get nothing. Okay, I do this. I get nothing. What do I do? Now I am spending 15 minutes on a forum somewhere going, hey, does anybody know why when you're trying to make a pseudo element in Brick, and you spend 15 minutes writing the fucking instructions, first of all, for your question, and then like nobody's really done that lately. Half the people go, you should just write the CSS. And you're just sitting here like, why isn't this work? Well, it turns out these have to be escaped. Well, that's not very beginner friendly. You told me these panels make it easy. Hey, isn't the content property required for pseudo elements to work? You would think if the interface was helping me, it would make the content blank by default unless I want it to be not blank, and then at least I would see something, right? Now, you might argue this is an interface problem. I run into these problems in every interface. It's the problem. That's the problem with them. That's the problem with them. By the way, these are not designed by, like they're designed by developers who don't actually use panels. You got to keep that in mind, right? So they don't, and this idea, I'm gonna show you again, an obvious lapse, right? Where we can't, and this isn't a knock on any particular interface. This happens in every interface, but it is impossible to keep track of the complexity. It's impossible to keep track of abstracting all of this complexity. So again, we already screwed this up. I mean, where is the top right? It's not even in the right position. I don't know what my card, my awesome, I got to get back out here. How do I get away from this selector? I need to get back to my awesome card. How do I honestly don't know because I haven't used bricks in like 6 months. I don't know how to get off. I need to get back to the original selector. Am I there? What? I don't know what's going on right now. I wanted to set the card to relative, and then I can actually probably position this thing. I position it absolute, okay, but I don't know how to get the card to relative, because if I do absolute here, it's gonna send it off the damn screen. Where is even absolute? Position, here we go, absolute. See, there it is. So now I gotta get back to the card. If I can't get back to the card, is it this? I'm so lost. I'm so lost. I didn't think it would be this difficult. This is why I never did it, by the way. I always wrote before. This has gotten worse, honestly. I don't know how to get back to the normal class. So I'm just gonna abandon ship. I wanted to set the card to relative, then this would be positioned properly, then I could do the blur and all of that stuff, okay? I mean, can I even do the blur? Let's just blur it while it's sitting up there in the right-hand corner, maybe. I can go, I gotta find filters, right? So I'm gonna come out here. Attributes, layout, great. I mean, transform, of course, it's in custom CSS. Okay, so down here, blur, 20 pixels, 20, what's going on? 20 pixels, 20, okay, it doesn't like pixels. It does not like pixels being in there. Okay, I guess it forces pixels. I don't know. Okay, there's a blur. All right, it's still not positioned. I don't know. Guys, I know what I'm doing, and that's difficult, okay? Now, let's come over here. I want to add a pseudo element to this card. Okay, and by the way, if I put words in here, right, you would see them right there. See them? See them? See them? That's it, right? But I know, hey, we just need to make content blank, and we're good to go, right? Now let's do the same thing we did before. Width of 100 pixels, height of 100 pixels, background of, we'll just make it red. We'll position it absolute. Anytime I position something absolute, I need its parent to be relative. So that's no problem because I'm literally also on the parent at the exact same time. And then I can go top of 0 and I can go right of 0, okay? And then I can go a border radius, no panels, no finding stuff. Now, I'm at a part where, granted, the user may not know how to blur this. And they might, okay, I got a circle on the page like I've been trained to do. Bricks didn't make that any easier. Bricks did not, that panel did not make getting that circle on that page any easier. And that's not because of my knowledge, okay? Now, granted, the user doesn't know how to do a filter, blur, okay? How do I blur something in CSS? Okay, oh, let me just steal that real quick. Oh, okay, 80, 8, 18, 28, dial it in, right? Oh, it needed to be behind. Okay, let's do z-index -1, right? Now it's behind. I can move it up, I can move it wherever I need. I have the full scope of everything I'm working on. I have no things to go hunt down. And again, okay, let's analyze. Analyze this for me. Padding, too difficult? Background, linear gradient. We were given this function earlier by our little assistant here, okay? Position relative, that's not hard to type. You just have to know that something has to be position relative. And a panel's not gonna help you with that anyway. Do you know how many posts there are of, my absolutely positioned element is not positioned correctly in its parent? The panel didn't help them. The panel did not solve that for them. They're still having a problem, right? Okay, now we come down to the pseudo element, right? Didn't I have to write that in the panel? I had to write that. I had to already know that that needed to be written. It didn't write it for. I didn't click a box that said, yes, I would like a before element. I had to write that. Content. Did the panel help me write this? No, it made it harder. It didn't make it easier, it made it more confusing. First, I had to find out where the input was, then I had to figure out why it wasn't processing empty quotes, then I had to escape them. Now, width and height. Okay, I found those in a couple clicks. But why is it too hard to write width and too hard to write height? And these are excuses that people are making. And I understand everybody wants to get up in their feelings, okay? But they're excuses, that's what they are. It comes from fear, it comes from, and these are legitimate feelings. I'm not discounting your feelings. I'm just telling you, they are absolutely 1 gazillion% holding you back. And it is objectively a worse way to work, a way worse way to work. Background, is that difficult? Position absolute, you already have to know how that works. There's no paneling your way around the understanding of how position absolute works. Just not. Top 0, right 0. Again, with absolute positioning. This knowledge comes with this knowledge, okay? Border radius, not hard to write. That one was hard to write for a lot of people. That's why we got it from an assistant. Didn't have to write it, didn't have to know it, didn't have to care. Z-index -1. By the way, we built an entire fucking table and we didn't even know what we were doing. With by the way, copy and paste, okay? Sorry, I'm a little passionate as a prosecutor, okay? Okay, I'm not even halfway done with my list. Imagine that, okay? Grid areas, pseudo elements, logical properties, locally scoped variables, background layers, style queries, container queries. You wanna move into the future of CSS? You wanna move into something like if functions, container queries, things that those panels have no answer for, no solution for, no pathway for, no nothing. It took Elementor, if you want me to pick on another interface, it took Elementor 7 years to introduce grid controls after grid was actually introduced and accepted and being used. 7 years for it to be given to users in a little cute little panel. And not even the full scope of CSS Grid. It promotes old school workflows. Okay, I need to do something on here on mobile, okay? what we're gonna do is we're gonna change a box from red to blue, okay? So I'm just gonna say my box, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna say the background, click, 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 primary, okay? And then on another device right here, okay, I'm gonna come down, I'm going to change the background color, okay? Let's go neutral, all right? Not difficult. Problem is, absolutely irrelevant, absolutely irrelevant. We've had a discussion. You're gonna need, this is gonna require some reading. You're gonna need to read a blog post or two. You're gonna have to watch a couple of videos, okay? But the era of media queries is essentially over. And we have moved into the era of container queries. Now, that's not to say that media queries are never used. They will be used, I would gather, about 10% of the time, maybe 20% of the time. 80% of the time, when you're not dealing with something that stretches to the edge of the screen, you're likely going to use container queries for that. The panels, this is no builder that I know of has a panel that is capable of properly managing container queries. There's just no pathway for it. There's no pathway for it. What they give you is these things. Now, I'm going to give you a fact. You see these little cute little device icons? If you were to calculate all of the necessary media queries for web design, for your site to look good across devices, there would be over 2,200 of them. And you think, goes back to, again, this is like, I feel nice and warm and fuzzy with these. You're living in a fairy tale, a fantasy land, okay? That 4 icons are going to be somehow representative of the 2,200 known breakpoints that exist in the wild. We don't live in this era this is not the era we live in anymore, okay? We live in an era of element-based responsiveness. That an element, like a card, like a CTA, like a whatever, looks at its parent and goes, how much space are you giving me? Okay, I'm gonna look like this. I don't care about the device. Device is irrelevant in the modern era, for the most part. What we care about is available space. And there is no panel in existence that actually empowers you to use that workflow. They're all stuck in an era that was gone years ago now. This was a great thing in 2012, 2016, whatever. And this is, by the way, just the nature of GUI interfaces. They lag significantly behind the times, where when you just give access to the code, people can do whatever they want at whatever pace they want, and they can do it at, like, cutting edge if they want. You could be old school if you want, but there's nothing stopping you from being cutting edge. There's nothing stopping you from stepping into another era. But with these old interfaces, there is it is stopping you from stepping into the next era, right? Where we have a responsive canvas. And all I care about is, does it look good everywhere? So you can now design sites that just look good everywhere if you use container queries, because every element is always measuring its available space, going, oh, I don't have enough space. Okay, I'm gonna look like this instead. It's not relying on media queries. Media queries are, for all intents and purposes, dumb. They're not intelligent. Container queries are intelligent. That's why they were introduced. They were introduced as a technique because of the limitations, dramatic limitations, of media queries. And by the way, I said this a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I was saying container queries are going to replace media queries for the most part. And people told me, it'll never happen, Kevin. No, because they didn't understand container queries. They felt like, no, I don't want to pay attention to those. So I'm just going to say it's never going to happen. And I'm going to cross my fingers and hope it never happens. Well, guess what? It happened. It was always going to happen. It was obvious that it was going to happen because it's the way responsiveness should be done, right? And again, this is a style. There is no style panel in existence that empowers you to do this. But this modern interface, look, I can even check this level of responsiveness, okay? This interface right here allows you to do it. Where if I want to do a container query at this card, at this measurement, I can literally go, and this, by the way, is an interface that's helpful. Dia steals our right-click shortcuts. Let me do this. Okay. I really want you guys to forecast what it's going to be like when a Dia-like experience is natively in Etch. That's like, because you see I'm having to cheat and use Dia. This is actually like the assistant style workflow that I would really love for you to have natively, because that's going to be absolutely phenomenal, unbeatable. Like just, it's going to be crazy, right? It's going to be crazy. But I can go, if I want container queries, I can go add a has me selector. If you don't know what that is, well, guess what? You don't have to know what it is. You just have to know it exists and that you're supposed to do it when you do container queries, okay? And then I can come down and it's measuring and I say, yeah, I want to change it like right there. That's very specific. It's very specific to this element because changes in, we'll just call them breakpoints. There's not media query breakpoints, they're container query breakpoints, but they are still breakpoints. It's a part where things break into something else, right? And so this is a breakpoint. They should be very specific because they are element specific. Okay, so I come in here and I go right click and I go add container query and it writes it for me with a rim function so it outputs properly in rim but still gives me pixels to look at, and then I can just write my new instruction like that. Womp womp. See? Yep. You can do whatever you want at any relevant size according to this element or group of elements right here. That is true responsiveness. Not media query based, container query based. And I might be moving the device right now, but if you drop this box into a box with smaller space, you're going to get the same color shift because it responds to available space, not to the device. This interface actually helps you with that. You don't have, all you have to do is know the concept, which you get by watching a simple video. And then you go right click, and there it is. And a panel can't, when I'm sitting around dreaming about what are we gonna do to make container queries really easy and CSS styling panels, it is a nightmare to think about. And that's why none of them do them. That's why panels don't do advanced things. A GUI for very advanced things is extremely expensive, extremely time consuming, and takes focus off of other far more important things. We could do this polling over and over and over again as we continue to have these discussions. But the reason we have loops and components and modifiers and all of the innovative, like this responsive canvas situation, this stuff right here, the stuff you see me do over here, the innovations is because we did not waste months of time making pretty little panels yet. And I'm glad we didn't, because now when we're looking at AI integration, when we're experimenting with AI integration, and this is assistance, this is not do all my work for me AI, this is assist me AI. This is, I'm trying to learn, can you help me out here AI, okay? It's gonna be able to build a whole page for you if you wanted to. But again, accuracy-wise, a lot of times you go back hunting for things to fix and that takes just as much time. Or you can use, wireframe layouts to get you started. That's better than AI most times, okay? But as you saw with the table, that's a bang up job of whipping up a little table right here, okay? We start to look at these workflows and we have to start asking very difficult questions. Like, should we rethink this crutch? Because again, I'm looking at it like, what does it actually do other than, in most cases, cause lots of problems and headaches and nightmares? So here's the brass tacks argument, and I'll look at the comments, I'll look at the questions, whatever. We'll do an AMA Q&A. Does a CSS graphical user interface make things easier? For beginners who rely on it as a crutch, it does feel easier to them. It doesn't make things easier. Its value diminishes the longer you go, okay? And if you have an interface that is built for efficiency and built for speed and built for actual CSS authoring and has AI assistance, I would argue that it does not, it actually makes things more difficult. So you can look at the example of the before pseudo element. You can look at the example of the hover situation. Oh, I meant to show you one detail on the hover, right? If I wanted to do this hover, Remember or the before pseudo element? Maybe it was the before pseudo element. So on my box, I want to do my box before, because I don't want to click this little arrow and add it there because that was a nightmare. So I'm just going to say, well, I can add it here as a selector. Okay. So I do my box and before, and look, it appears I have a styling panel. Okay. I'm going to go, but I'll just tell you, we don't have to go through all of it. I am not going to be able to create a pseudo element that way. Just not going to. And I'll tell you why. And this goes back to the complexity of they can't account for everything. You can't, there's too much complexity. You can't account for all the logic. There's supposed to be a content input so that I can input either blank content or words or a function or something. And it does not exist because I wrote this selector manually and it did not pick up on the fact that this is a pseudo element and that it's going to need a content element, and it did not show me a content input. And if a content input is required for pseudo elements, this pathway does mean nothing. And I don't know how long a beginner, after writing this, would fill out all these styling panels only to realize that they can't possibly produce a pseudo element this way. Well, there is one way, but you're not going to like it. They could do this. But again, they could have just done that in the first place. It always comes back to the same conclusion. You're always going to run a scenario where you're right back here, doing what you should have done in the first place. Simple properties are already simple, and they don't require a graphical user interface. You only need a graphical user interface for more advanced things, but graphical user interfaces can't actually handle most advanced things, which forces you right back to writing CSS. So your better option when there's a more advanced thing you need to do is ask your assistant. That's what we do in Era 4. We don't start to use a panel, go down a 15-minute rabbit hole before realizing the panel's not actually going to get the job done, migrate all that stuff back to where we should have started in the first place. That's not what we do in Era 4. That's not efficient. That's not friendly. That's not any of the other words I always hear. It's not any of those things. Does it make the workflow faster? Only if you're using a less capable interface. I mean, you watch me do this table, I will smoke anybody who tries to create a table in bricks from scratch. Smoked. It's not even close. It's not even the same, probably not even the same day for most users. They'd have to take a lunch break, a smoke break, a nap, okay? And I'm done. And I didn't even do the work. I didn't really do the work. Old workflows, you're trying to drag these old carcasses into Era 4. I don't know why. It only hurts you in the long run. Is it required to fill knowledge gaps? It used to be. It used to be. I'll give you that. It used to be. We didn't have an assistant to fill the knowledge gap. If we didn't know how to do a filter blur, we literally had to hunt it down in the panel and find it and add the blur there. But now I can just say, hey, how do you do a blur in CSS? And it goes, oh, you do filter blur 8 pixels. And I just copy and paste it in and I move on with my life. Why? What is the necessary? Why is the panel thing needing to happen at that point? Why are we introducing this complexity and this craziness? Any advantages, which I did note, there's a couple advantages. I mean, they're mostly like, it's like, again, the advantage erodes like the longer you use the tool, it gets worse and worse. So can you really call them advantages? But any advantages that you really think or feel exist are massively outweighed by the cons and the costs. Massively outweighed by the cons and the costs. We did a card with a pseudo element. We did a table. You can look at the advanced hero I did last week. For simple things, it's faster. It might make like flex controls might make a little bit more sense. I'm gonna show you this, right? If I go, my section, right, and I go flex, right, and I want to go there, and I want to do that, and I want to do that. Yeah, that's quick and easy. This is 1% of the work you're gonna do on any given element. This is not. You might legitimately beat me on that part. But the minute we get into any semblance of meat, you're cooked. You're done. Okay? You're done. You're not paneling faster than me just writing. And by the way, me not having to go anywhere while I write. There's no click cost. There's no assessment cost. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, here, at this breakpoint, at that breakpoint, in this panel, in that panel. There's none of that. I'm just calmly, just type, done, right? If you don't realize the tremendous mental cost to seeing all of these panels open and close and open and close and hunt and find and open and close and hunt and find and breakpoint and breakpoint and breakpoint and class and this, it wears your brain to pieces, right? Versus you just in a calm interface, like it's just, I can see everything at all times. I have access to everything at all times. And by the way, if you wanted, I mean, even this would be like, like this kind of situation. Look, like I always have that, but I also have this. I mean, if that's really what you wanted. But I would say you got to get out of the mindset of thinking you need this. It's not doing you any favors. It's not doing you any good. And like I said, at the end of the day, you could spend 2 years mastering a clicky, click, 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 slider, clicky, click, click interface. The minute they redesign that interface, the minute you have to switch to a different tool, the minute you're asked to take over a project that wasn't that interface that you were building in for the last 2 years, you are donezo. Because you don't have the actual skill. You have mastered a single interface. Well, there's already enough threats in this industry. You got AI threats trying to take your job. You got people everywhere around the world lowballing the shit out of all your projects trying to take your job. You've got advancements and plugins and advancements over here trying to take your job. And your saving grace is that you mastered one interface in one era of one tool, and that's where all your work can get done, and not much can get done outside of that. I don't think that's the longevity formula. I think the longevity formula is take your medicine. Start writing the CSS, use a capable interface, use an assistant, and do your work, and enjoy your life. All right. Let's go to the chat. Oh, it's going to be lively. I had the discipline. See, some people would keep a little eye and they'd be like, oh, maybe the chat's not going my way. Oh, let me change a little bit. Let me tone it down a little bit. All right. I just gotta prosecute the case. We'll figure out like what happens afterwards. Is it's not like we're actually putting somebody in prison here. It's just a styling panel. Hey, calm down. It's not your grandmother, right? Okay. So we're just talking about style panels. That's all we're doing. I'm gonna highlight some comments. We'll respond maybe in real time, right? Let's see. Okay. Where was your other, hold on. He had a different comment I was trying to click on. Where did his other, because that's a follow-up comment, I think. Oh, I lost it, Crack. I don't know your original, let me go all the way back. Oh, I think it's auto-scrolling me, hold on. Oh, that's, well, I probably should have had you guys put like hashtag arg or something. Like you could make your arguments in that hashtag and I could actually find it. The proliferation of tools has created a I'll start at the bottom and I'll work my way up. Maybe that. Okay. Who can use frameworks but can't understand what's actually happening? That's a problem. That is a problem. After we master Etch, we'll cry when the client will need to fix something on. Yeah, I mean, you will, because they're less capable tools. It's always sucks to use less capable tools. I did a video building a landing page with the style panel. It was rough. Yeah, it's always rough. Admire your willingness to lose potential customers for your conviction. It's not everyone, and that's make Etch really great. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think anybody is like, we've marketed to people who are willing to take their medicine, first of all, okay? They probably, in the back of their mind, really, really, really want them to stick around. but they also kind of acknowledge that the objective reality of what they just saw in comparison, right? And again, nobody's arguing that the easy stuff like flex, column, center, bottom, whatever. Nobody's arguing that that's not easier for somebody than writing flex alignments. Because, by the way, flex sucks. But again, what is my pathway? We cannot pretend. Here's what they pretend. They pretend that I have no pathway to having something write that for me. And if I had it right here in the panel, sitting right here, if I could literally go, I could go display, flex, align, everything, center. Enter, boom, done. And it goes, da-da-da-da-da. What's the difference? What's the difference? There's no difference. Other than the fact that this giant panel takes up a crap load of real estate, which is why I turn it off. They all do. So you have more real estate when you work in Etch if you don't use style panels. More real estate's a really good thing in the modern era. All right, here's Ken. If you claim to be a web designer or front-end developer, you must know HTML semantics, master CSS, understand browser rendering, and debug without frameworks. 100%. I agree. I can't tell you the amount of people, like, again, we get into it with the click, slider thing. I would stand to guess that 70% of those people, and again, this is not an insult. It's just a fact, okay? It's reality based on observation. 70% don't know how to inspect a page. They can't find where a problem is occurring, which means the panel can only empower them to the point of a problem. And then all the empowerment goes out the window. And now they spend endless amounts of time on forums or wherever trying to get help or asking AI, which they could have just done in the first place. And a lot of times the problem is not what they're trying to do. The problem is how the thing they're using is actually applying the styling. As we saw with the example of background, where I had a background image and I tried to change it on hover or change it at a breakpoint, and I can't change it from an image to color because color is the only thing the builder will write when I need it to write background. And I don't have any control over that because I'm in a styling panel. And I don't even know that that's happening until I inspect the code and see that it's not using the background property. Again, nobody, when people say it's faster, not a single time do they ever get out a clock and count when somebody gets stuck and spends 2 hours trying to figure out what the hell went wrong. Because they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what the builder did, and they can't inspect it. Where's that time added up? Meanwhile, I'm just chugging along, right? They never add up that time. That time's never included in the calculation. Funny how that works. Okay. Yes, this is not just bricks though, Cedric. Okay. So in all fairness, this is every, except Etch. This is every interface that gives breakpoints. They have to give you a separate CSS editor, a separate styling panel for every breakpoint. That's just how it works. How are you possibly going to use the inputs in a panel for multiple things? Like it only accepts one value. It's got to reset at some point, right? It resets. And now you have multiple instances of panels floating around based on specific requirements. And now you're playing this game of where are my styles? It's an inherent flaw of a graphical user interface for CSS. CSS is an extremely detailed and deep language. And you try to abstract that into a UI, you're going to get the easy stuff, which you already could have done because it's easy. And you're going to get some shit show of like trying to do advanced things that it can't actually do. And the more you use it, the less empowered you get. And I say it's like typing. If people want to, how you could probably think back. How did you learn how to type? It's this simple thing right here. Your brain, if you aren't going to look at the keys, has no idea what you're touching. I mean, they have the little sensor thing where okay, I know my index fingers are on maybe F and J. I learned that, okay? In the early days of learning how to type, your fingers have no idea where they are. Where is a letter? And you got to sit there and oh yeah, that one's up there, and reach for it, and it's so slow. And then there's people who look down all the time, every time. I think my dad, 80-something years old. Right? The people, you talk about empowerment. What is actual empowerment? Kevin, I mean eyeballs. I got eyeballs, Kevin. That's my empowerment. I'm going to look down there. No, that's not real empowerment. You're never going to learn to type. You're never going to be a typer. You're just never going to be, okay? The empowerment comes from somebody saying, stop looking down. You're not allowed anymore. You're not allowed to look down anymore. And the minute you accept that and you take your medicine and you go, okay, I'm not going to look down anymore. A few days, picking up speed. A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're a typer. 3 weeks, you're a typer. You could spend 30 years looking at the keyboard. You're never going to be a typer. You're never going to be a typer. You could choose 3 weeks or decades, right? I have watched people 8 years in Elementor, 8 years in, go take a top content creator from Elementor land, 100,000 plus subscribers. Pull them out of Elementor, put them in an advanced interface. They are a rock star in one GUI, in one era, and they don't know what the hell they're doing outside of that. They have no clue. They have no idea. They can't get a damn thing done. You got to choose. And I could just, if you want me to foreshadow for you, when AI actually takes jobs, it will be those. Won't be mine, but it will be those. And that's at that point, that's the worst medicine that you're going to have to take. That medicine tastes a lot worse, okay, than the medicine I'm trying to give you. All right. Back in action. Is Etch going to have a code block element? It's not necessary. I mean, it is code, right? You have the HTML, you have the CSS, you have the JavaScript, you'll have the PHP. It will all just live in the element itself. And when you copy and you export it to somewhere else, all that stuff goes with it. That already happens, by the way. So I don't know what the purpose of a code block would be. If we run into some edge case that requires a purpose, then of course we will make one. But so far, I just don't know of one, right? I don't know of why it would be needed. A year and a half ago, I was that person who for the previous years was just learning themes and plugins. Inner Circle, Kevin's videos, and other CSS teachers have been game-changing for me. That is great to hear. It's fantastic. By the way, I hear this. What enlightened me, because I think I was drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit, right? Of the Kevin, beginners, they just want no code. They just want to click, click, click. They just want to stuff. And I was kind of like, man, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Okay, I'm going to focus on these people over here. I'll tell you exactly where it changed. When I published Page Building 101. And I literally, in the first part of the series, called out the other interfaces. And then I said, you should probably do stuff like this, and you should actually learn fundamentals, and you should actually know what you're doing, and I'm going to teach you all the way through 20 episodes. And I started getting literally dozens of emails from people telling me, hey, I just switched from Elementor, I just switched from Divi, I just switched from Beaver, I just switched from Brizzy, I just switched from blah, 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 blah. And they were telling me things like, I finally feel like I can actually do the stuff I've always wanted to do. I feel confident now when I talk to clients. I'm not scared about talking about the code or the semantics or anything else, or why accessibility is important. And they're speaking in their emails and their messages like people who are actually empowered, like people who actually now know real skills. And the confidence that comes from that And so when I see that, I don't just have the realization, oh, they're actually open to it. That's number one. Like really open to it, like lots of them. Because I still hear all the time, Kevin will never sell Etch because there's not enough beginners in the world to fund that project. Or not enough advanced users in the world to fund that project. Beginners don't want anything to do with it. We're getting beginners left and right. I don't know what to tell you, Jack. They're coming in, they're knocking the door down. And it comes from that page building 101 mindset of when people finally realize and they put two and two together that, damn, I have wasted the last 4 years of my life in Elementor or Divi or whatever it is. And then they switch over and they start to learn and they start to feel empowered and they start to get confident and they start to raise their prices and they start to It's a whole chain of events. That's what they're at. People aren't, I don't know a single person where if you sat them down and they were like, I know you want to work in this industry. I just don't know if you're really capable. So, we're going to put you on the dumbed down interface. Imagine you got a new job. You came into this new company and they were like, I think we're just going to put you on the dummy train, right? We're just going to give you the super easy beginner click, click, click interface, right? I know you want to do the stuff everybody else here does, but like you wouldn't want to be treated that way, but for some reason people treat themselves that way. I don't know why. You should say, hey, and this is the whole premise of Etch. If you're a layperson, we're not for you. Like totally, we're not for you. We're not for any rando off the street who's just like, I want to build one website, Kevin. I want to build my website for my small business, Kevin. That's all I want. Okay, well, yeah, you should I would say hire somebody to do it for you, to do it the right way. Don't waste your time on it. Go run your business. Why are you building a website? That doesn't make any sense. But if you are going to go against my advice and build your own website, you're a perfect candidate for Wix or Webflow or Squarespace or something. Go do that. Go waste your time on that. Go slap something together. It's probably going to hurt your brand image more than anything, but go ahead and have at it, right? You're not going to get the results you would get with a professional, but go have at it. That's literally the advice. If my brother-in-law came to me and was like, hey, what should I do? That's what I tell him. I'd be like, hire a professional. And if he denied that or declined that, I'd be like, all right, go do it yourself in Webflow or Wix or Squarespace or whatever you feel most comfortable in. Slap some shit together. It's going to be awful. It's probably not going to convert well, but you've been warned. Go have at it, right? And they would go have at it. Now, that person and a beginner are not the same person. Like, yes, he's technically a beginner. My brother-in-law, if he did that, would technically be a beginner. But there are two classifications of beginner. One is a layperson who has no care or intention of ever building a website ever again beyond this one right here that they need. And then there's a beginner who says, I want to work in this industry. I want to do work for other people. I want to get results for other people. I want to build a legitimate business. Okay, well, if that's you, Ron, you need to learn what you're doing. Because that's what you have to do in any industry. You can't be like, well, I love saving lives, and so I think I'm going to be a lifeguard, but I'm not going to learn anything about lifeguarding. I don't need to know CPR. I don't need to know how to drive the Jeep. I don't need to know how to swim in waves or rip currents or anything else. I just want to show up on the beach. Isn't there a way to make this easy? On me, right? You can't, this doesn't exist. We're the only industry that entertains this. And I've said before, no matter how dumb the interface gets, it never solves you can't do work in it. You just can't. I don't know. I wish I could bring people on. We could have a lively discussion. I'll just reiterate. This was an opening prosecution, right? Grand jury session. See if we should fully prosecute the CSS styling panels of the world. I'll just go to questions and answers. We have 15 minutes left. I'll spend them just answering some questions. Design with Cracker says, why code block may be necessary? Right now we have JS, HTML, PHP, but we need CSS input that accepts other selectors. We have CSS input that accepts other selectors. I'm still not sure what you mean exactly. I think I would need an example. When will a verse element be in Etch? That's if you aren't on the same page, it's an inside joke. It's a knock at Elementor, who or not Elementor, Gutenberg. Gutenberg, who prioritizes things like verse blocks over actually important and relevant blocks. Okay. Are you considering totally removing the style panel? I would say, John, it's under consideration. It is under consideration. It's under consideration. Now, granted, people aren't going to be able to see. This is like if you ask people, what they wanted back in the age of horses, they would tell you a faster horse. They would not tell you they wanted a car. But if you show them a car, they're going to be like, yeah, fuck the horses, right? That's basically what we all did. That's basically what we all did. So I fully understand that, I can show examples, I can rant and rave, I can make argument after argument after argument, and people are still going to be like, Kevin, I really need that faster horse. That was a really cute horse that we were using. But what I will allude to is I may show you something soon, and you may be like, all right, fuck the style panels. Let's not do that. Let's not do that anymore. Let's not do that anymore. I'm just saying, that's why I said, don't be so quick to jump to any kind of conclusion, right? You still only have half the story here. When people ask, why does the context of a quote matters? Maddie, we've had this discussion a lot lately. Why the context of a quote matters. I think you actually kind of manipulated the quote a little bit. We can check the record. Let's reverse the tape. Pretty sure it wasn't worded like that. Okay. Don't you fear the removal of the styling panel will have a negative effect on your etch sales? If I removed it right now, yes. If I removed it when we were prepared to show people an alternative path that was not just palatable to them, but exciting to them, no. In fact, it would increase sales. And it would be one more notch in the belt of, hey, this actually is a different era, and you can bury your head as far as it will go in the sand, but it will never change that fact that we are in a different era and we work differently now. And if you're using a tool that doesn't empower that, I'm sorry. That must be, I feel bad for you. Okay. No professional wants to stay a beginner forever. Great way to put it. Great way to put it. Builders notoriously hide the technology, which by design creates obfuscation to the user, or more importantly, the site owner, 100%. Okay. By the way, side point, very tangentially related. There was a heated race to no-code tools in web design, starting back in 2011, 2010. And then it ramped up with AI. People thought, oh my God, with AI, we can completely go no-code. Imagine that. No. And what did I say the entire time? Go back to the code, go back to the code, go back to the code, go back to the code. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. And now everybody's changing. Got to go back to the code. Got to go back to the code. Elementor. Got to go back to a class-first workflow. Why'd you abandon it? We had a class-first workflow in 2003. You chose to go away from it. And now you got to crawl back to it. We're going back to the code. Even the AI tools, they realized, if we don't give them the code, they need a lot of fucking tokens. You better have a whole bundle of tokens. You better have mama's credit card on file, because you're gonna be needing some tokens. Why? Because every little thing, you can't touch it. You can't touch the output. So you got to reprompt it. Reprompt, token. Racking up token sales. People are like, dude, you got to just give me the code so I can touch it. I can fix the thing right there. Why do I have to and then when you re-prompt to fix the one little thing, it deletes half the block above. And now you're like, I guess I should have connected it to Git. I guess I should add some version control. And now you're in this quagmire situation. It's a nightmare. But if you give people the code, all the nightmares go away, don't they? All the nightmares go away. I don't know how many things I have to say. Go back to the code. Class first workflow. Variable first workflow. Nope. Don't litter utility classes everywhere. Stop doing that. Nope. Go back to the code. And then it's like, got to go to container queries. Media queries aren't work. Kevin, container queries will never be a thing. Nobody will ever use those. Well, yeah, nobody in era 2 and 3 interfaces will use them because they physically can't. Unless they write the CSS. But in a proper interface, not only will they use them, they'll do that first. And then their sites will be better. Their sites will be more responsive. Their sites will be more modern. They'll have more joy in what they're able to do because they won't need modifier classes because the modification happens automatically according to the available space. You get a lot of benefits. That's why these things evolve, by the way. I don't know why people seem to think that they're evolving CSS to make it worse. What? To make it do less? No. It's almost becoming like a JavaScript language. If functions, right? Conditional logic. Conditional logic with style queries is crazy. If you think panels are going to be able to keep up with that, CSS has never been at a faster pace. The only people that can keep up are literally the people who can write the language or get an assistant to write the language and paste the language. That's it. The style panels are going to be long gone. I promise. So we had this discussion internally about costs. What if you invest months into style panels? Because by the way, these things are not easy to whip up. Okay. They're very expensive. Expensive in money, expensive in time, and expensive in trade-offs. Because if you say, yes, invest 4 months in style panels, you know what we can't invest in? Woo. You know what we can't invest in? Facets. You know what we can't okay? Everything has trade-offs in life. These are the trade-offs. Then you spend the 4 months making these very nice, cute, intricate, which by the way, they don't do anything extra. All they do is supposedly make your life a little bit easier. But we already went over why that's not really the case in a capable interface. So you get to the end of 4 months and then you look up and then you start your AI integration perhaps. And you come to the conclusion, oh shit, that last 4 months was just not necessary. We shouldn't have done that. We should have done Woo. Or we should have done Facets. Because actually we're kind of to the point now where I don't think you need those things anymore. Well, that's a really tough pill to swallow after 4 months of painstaking development and testing of a era 3, era 2 concept, carcass that we dragged across the finish line into era 4. I started to get second thoughts. I started to get a little scared of that possibility. And then I started to do some experimentation. Then I started to do some deeper thinking. And then I started to do some comparisons. Are these things that people say about style panels really true? It turns out they're not. Turns out they're not very true. And so we can't use bad arguments to keep these things around. We can't use, and I'm open, by the way, if you want to create counter videos, you're like, Kevin, watch me whip this thing up in a panel. I can't do it. My AI assistant completely fails at this, but the panel saved me, Kevin. The panel saved me. I never would have been able to do it without. If you want to make those videos, I would love to watch them. I would love to watch them. I just don't believe it's true. Now, the only thing I will grant you is it's harder to write CSS when they bury the CSS editor. That's why I said the interface matters. The interface does matter. Okay. So if you have access to everything at all times, it's not faster to use a style panel. This is for those little flex clicks. Okay. Ooh, you got me. Any meat of like actually needing to do something complex, not only are the style panels slower, you may run into a dead end after spending an hour on it and then have to migrate half your shit to CSS anyway. That's a very common conclusion, right? So we really have to keep this stuff in context. People will want to take this out of context, desperately want to take it out of context, desperately want to ignore a lot of factors to try to keep this thing around. We can't let that happen, which is why I want to see evidence. I want to see video. I'm the prosecutor. You're the defense attorney. You can't just stand up there and go, well, Your Honor, we really just feel like we should keep it around. Like, that's not going to get, your client's going to get, they're going to get the chair, okay? Your client's going to get the chair. You're going to have to come with some real evidence, some videos, some somethings, okay? Or it's not looking good for your client. David's already he's pulling levers over there. He's frying people right now. Okay. I got to get out of here. I cannot go through the chat. It's too much. If you have something you want me to see related to this, drop it in the comments below the video. I will respond to every comment on this video. I will reply to every comment on this video. As soon as I hit off on this stream, I'm not going back through the chat. So if you want me to see it, put it as a comment. It could be questions. It could be arguments. It could be links to your channel and your videos that you're going to show me. You're going to prove me wrong. Again, I'd love to take a look at it. I'd love to see it happen. Okay. Because I don't want to pull the plug on style panels. If somebody can legitimately produce evidence that like, hey, this is super easy, right? Like this is, I guess, kind of necessary in this context. I don't know. I haven't seen the example yet. You got to show me. Okay. But I'm open to it. I haven't made any decisions. Let's be clear on that. I have not made any official decisions. There's still work we're doing. There's still testing to be done. There's still experimentation to be done. There's still examination of any evidence produced by defense attorneys in this courtroom. But that's it. It's got to be it on the stream. I do love you guys. I do support you. I know you can take it. That's why I rant and rave at you, because I know you're not sensitive, overly sensitive. You might be a little sensitive, not overly sensitive. And you'll be here next week or in 2 weeks or whatever. So love you guys. Cheers.